That's right, you are. Good morning and welcome to our Minnehaha County Commission meeting for April 21st, 2026. I call our meeting to order and note for a record that we do have a full quorum of commissioners present. Please silence your cell phone, avoid embarrassment. And if you're going to speak today, we ask that you sign in the back of the room. We do need your name for public record. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, look for a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda has our bills that we pay, our reports, abatements, et cetera, all available as public record down in the auditor's office. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on any item on the consent agenda? All right, commissioners.
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call the roll.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Bleinberg.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Our first item of regular business is a public hearing to consider an appeal of a decision by the Minnehaha County Planning Commission to deny conditional use permit 2612 to allow a telecommunications tower on the property legally described as the southwest quarter of Section 32, Red Rock Township. Mr. Hoekman from Planning, welcome.
Yes, good morning. I'm Kevin Hookman from the County Planning Department. Yes, we received an appeal of the Planning Commission decision to deny the conditional use permit 2612 to allow a telecommunications power on the property you described. This property is located in between Brandon and the city of Valley Springs, approximately a half mile north of 485th Avenue and County Highway 138. The applicant is requesting to build a 195 feet tall tower with a 4 feet lightning rod for a total of 199 feet. With the application, there was technical documents and narratives to support the application and to show why the site is needed for the proposed development. The Planning Commission heard the request on March 23rd, 2026. Prior to the request, a petition signed by 23 people was submitted in opposition of the development. The primary list of concern of the petition was in relation to the Erickson Intergalactic Airport, which is a private airport located approximately 3,000 feet to the southwest of the site. The Planning Commission, several neighbors did speak at the Planning Commission meeting, and the Planning Commission did vote unanimously to deny the conditional use permit. On March 27th, staff received an appeal of the Planning Commission decision, and on April 8th, staff received a request to defer this hearing. The reason for the deferral was to allow for time for an FAA review of the plans and the site location. So at this time, staff will be recommending that the commission defer the action to the requested date of May 26, 2026.
All right. Has anybody, by show of hands, showed up to either talk as an opponent or proponent to this? Okay. Since we have people that showed up today, we are going to go through that process then. So what our process is to hear first from the proponents for the plan, those that are in favor of the conditional use permit. It's your opportunity to address the commission and to add to this information that we may already have. So Anybody here as a proponent for this conditional use permit? And now, understanding again that we will be most likely deferring this to May 26th. Any proponents? Okay. So we now will hear from any opponents that, to this conditional use permit. If you'd like to address the commission as an opponent to this conditional use permit, doesn't mean you have to come back on May 26th, but now would be your opportunity. Please come up. We just ask that you identify yourself and
Hi, my name's Dan Hupp, address 26196 485th Avenue. I guess just given the date today at 9 a.m. on a weekday, we had about 28 people in the surrounding area that we spoke to, and they voted no. Like I said about the date, a lot of them couldn't make it today. A lot were, some are homeschooling their kids, they couldn't break away. Some are at school kids' functions this morning, and then others are at work, obviously, on a Tuesday. Just some of the things we wanted to bring up, and some of them wanted me to speak on their behalf. First off, like we talked about the airport, he's traveling today, he was unable to make it. He said if the tower was able to go on the north end of the interstate, he would be fine with that, but right now he's just not for it where it's at. He kind of gave the flight patterns of the planes always come around to the left, and it'd be right where that tower's at, and he was concerned about that. The other thing they want to talk about is this company's from Wisconsin. They're not even from around here. The landowner was from Texas, moved up here, bought a bunch of land. He doesn't even farm it, he rents it out. He doesn't live anywhere near where this tower is going up. When it was brought up on the last meeting, it said with the tower going up, it's minimal health risk. Nobody was able to answer that question, what minimal means. In our neighborhood, we have a lot of young kids. I say neighborhood, but our section in that area, a lot of young kids growing up, and I guess a lot of us are concerned about that with the 5G tower and what comes off of that. So we're opposed with that as well. We also had the property value. It'll go down, eyesore, so a lot of us were concerned about that aspect as well. I know in our letter it said to voice your opinion, which I did. I'm not for it. We had 28 people around the area say no. A lot of them couldn't make it. We have about 8 of us here that were able to make it on behalf of the no's. And the other part of that was come up with an alternative, not just say no. Up by Garrettson, 258th Street between 484th Avenue and 486th Avenue. It is a dead zone. We have good internet, we have good cell service where we're at. Up in that area by the new state park of Garrettson, there's a lot of dead zone up there. I don't know, maybe shift the tower up there is maybe one of our opinions or solutions to this. But yeah, as far as the young kids and safety concerns, we're not for it. Thank you.
thank you, Dan. Anybody else like to address the commission as an opponent? Please come up. We ask that you do sign in the back. We do need your name for public record, so.
Yeah, my name's Dale Hanson. My address is 26143 486th Avenue, Valley Springs. So with this being deferred, I guess I got all nervous for nothing. But anyway, my family had farmed land adjacent to this for 45 years. We were tenant farmers, and we were always kind of afraid, being a tenant farmer, that somebody could tell us, we have no control over that land. For the last 36 years, I bought the south half of the north half, so it's right along the border, south half of the north half of section 32. So I've been paying taxes for 36 years, and I feel like I still don't have any control. Because where that tower is located, it would be within a quarter mile of any housing eligibilities that I wanted to sell, or I wanted my kids to be, or my grandkids. So, it takes money out of my pocket there. But if it'd been me, I've never met Mr. Vin. I assume he's a good guy. He owns land on both sides of me. But if it'd been me, I would have went to my neighbors and said, hey, I want to put a cell phone tower up. Do you support this? Do you not? And if they would have said no, I never would have taken it that far. So there's a right way to do business in our community. We are, people that live there are on the fire department, spend money in the community, go to our churches. We had a fire up on by the interstate just last week, and guys with their tractors and discs came out and helped fight that fire. So that was on mile 407. So I believe there's a right way to do business in our neighborhood, but this is not it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Any other opponents? Please, sir.
Good morning. I'm Tom Schuster. I live at 48518 262nd Street. And the only thing I request is we would have probably twice the amount of people here if you could have it in the evening. Dan Hupp and myself, we went around, talked to everybody again, trying to get them to the meeting. And like Dan says, people just can't make it 9 o'clock in the morning. And like Dan said, there's got to be somebody out there that wouldn't mind a cell phone tower by them, but we have a lot of resistance where they want to put it. And we have a cell phone tower already 1.5 miles from us, just to the east and north of Valley. And like Mark Erickson with the airport, he was really concerned because their airplanes fly right over me and they bank around to come into the airport. And he said a lot of them are descending, coming in under 200 foot. And he said a lot of them are at 100 foot because they come on in and hit the runway. And if I was you guys, I'd really consider that. If the airplane would hit the tower, that's on you guys. I mean, not personally, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, when we could move it away from an airport, and Mark even suggested north of the interstate, someplace. Somebody's got to be out there that wouldn't mind the tower. I mean, the other tower is right beside a house, so I don't know how that happened, but I guess my main thing is if you could have the meeting in the evening where we could get more input from other people, perspective on this. But right now, everybody here is a no vote on it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tom. Additional comments? Okay, Commission, I'm going to turn it over to you for, if you have any questions of staff, now is a good time to ask them, or you can delay till May 26th if you would like to defer this to May 26th. Commissioner Benninga?
I would make a motion to defer to the 26th of May.
Second?
You have a motion and a second for deferral. Additional questions, comments? Commissioner Benninga?
Just a quick one. We've dealt with the FAA a couple other instances in the past, and I'd like to have some guarantee that we'll have their report by the May 26th, because occasionally that's not happened on time.
Kevin, what are the odds?
I guess I'm not able to predict what time the timeline would be for that review. But we'll leave that up to the applicant to determine how long that they requested. So it wasn't staff requesting May 26th, it was the applicant, so.
Did they just initiate that request, or has it been in the works for a while? I mean, my experience has been FAA doesn't work in weeks or even months, but sometimes years.
You're very accurate.
So without the report, it'll be difficult to move this forward, my perspective, so.
Mr. Chair, I can
Commissioner
just give
Kipley.
some context, and Kevin can back me up here just from the planning perspective, and I'd appreciate those that showed up today. So we've heard twice now from some neighbors, one in the evening meeting, Planning Commission about a month ago, and then this appeal came forward, and we've heard similar sentiments. One of the elements at the Planning Commission level was we just didn't have enough information from the FAA. We're also not the FAA, so we kind of have questions like, what's our jurisdiction in this, in the sense that we can put conditions on it, and one of those conditions can be meeting all the requirements of FAA. But I think this proposal, obviously, we voted it down at the Planning Commission level. We're hearing the sentiment of some neighbors, so I guess I would just pass along to proponents that it seems like this has a couple strikes against it. So I think we're going to need some compelling arguments for how we would get to yes at this next meeting. And so I guess I would just also frame this up, the context here, and Kevin, I might need your help to keep me honest here, but this is technically could fall into a special permitted use if criteria are met, such as not being within 3 miles of an existing cell tower. So basically saying we don't just want cell towers everywhere if they're not, but if they're serving a purpose and they're not redundant. So if it's over 3 miles away and over, is it 1,500 feet from a residence? If it meets certain criteria like that, we actually wouldn't even need to do a conditional use permit. But because it's within 3 miles of an existing tower, as one of the helpful neighbors gave some facts that we are close to an existing tower. So basically raising the question of, is this the right location? But I also have sympathy for the applicant that it came up at the Planning Commission that it's hard to find a location that meets all of these criteria. So they're presumably acting in good faith, trying to find a good site location, but we also heard some public comment that maybe there's other locations. But did I describe that special permitted use correctly, Kevin?
Correct, yes. As a permitted special use, there are criteria that it must follow, and if it can't meet those criteria, it has to go through the conditional use permit process. And I believe for a dwelling, it's 1,300 feet from the nearest dwelling. But yes, 3 miles, and it was the nearest tower that it was not, did not meet that requirement of 3 miles, because Minnehaha County has a lot of towers, so.
Yeah, so I would just support the motion to defer to give the applicant one last chance to maybe tie this together and answer some of those concerns. But yeah, I still have trouble with the FAA thing to understand if it's relevant for us to consider, or if it's kind of a red herring that if we were to approve, I think we would just put in a condition that it has to pass other regulatory bodies elements. But I think even if you set aside the airport issue, I think we have some valid concern from the neighbors that have some strikes against this project, and we're going to need some new evidence or some compelling from the applicant here at the new hearing. But I'll support the motion to defer for today.
Commissioner Raisy?
Mr. Chair, I got a couple of comments here. I appreciate the follow-up from my colleague on the Planning and Zoning Board, and wanted to say I appreciate people that came today to give public comment, and can understand very hard to get here on a work day at 9 o'clock. I know many people couldn't make it, but appreciate the ones that could. Just wanted to say that for the ones that couldn't come, or maybe were too nervous to get up and speak before us today, that our emails are open, and I'd love to hear from you over the next month and hear what you have to say. So thank you.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to defer to May 26th. Please call the roll.
Benega.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Isey. Aye. Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Next item is something that I'm sure all of you are here for, and if you didn't know this was today, you're in for a treat. Our campus master plan final presentation, something that's been in the works for a while, and we're going to have Tom Greco, our Administrative Officer, tee it up.
All right, good morning. Tom Greco, Commission Administrative Officer. As Commission Chair Karski noted, I'll just tee this up. Just wanted to provide some background. This process for this particular project began in November of '24 at a building committee meeting where we kind of sketched a plan moving forward to solicit a firm to conduct master planning for the county. It's been a great process to date. We've met several times, numerous times within the building committee. They were here just last month to talk about the existing conditions, but overall it's been a very positive process. I do want to underscore the fact that this type of planning is not new to the commission. It's not new to the county. About 10 years ago, a little less than 10 years ago, we had I would call a mini study done on space needs within the county, and at that time we did recognize and acknowledge the fact that we will be severely constrained come the end of this decade into the early 2030s. I think that's what you'll see. That's what you saw last month with the space needs analysis, but you'll see more of that today. I think within the spirit of our planning in the past, we've taken these types of plans and we've used them as a blueprint, a roadmap to chart a path forward. Based on the resources that are available and certainly the needs of the county. What I would point you towards, Andrew is going to get up in a moment and start the presentation. I would actually point you towards the last slide, which gives some next steps for the county to undertake. What we have done in the past is we receive a plan, we'll analyze it and determine what the next steps are going to be. This really does demonstrate, again, I think a lot of great work that's gone into this process from all our departments and partners, and certainly the contractor, ARC Inc., in leading a team of expert professionals to guide us through this. So with that, I'll turn it over to Andrew, who will provide the presentation.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning. On behalf of our team of Architecture Incorporated, HDR, and Tegra Group, we're pleased to be back in front of the commission this morning, giving our second of two presentations. The one back in March was focused on the issues that we identified over the last number of months as we worked with the building committee and the smaller master planning committee and all the departments. That one is where we identified the issues. Today is really focused on talking about, with those issues we identified, what are some potential solutions going forward. So we're excited to present that to you this morning. If you would have questions along the way, we're happy to answer them during the presentation, or we'll certainly leave time at the end to address those. So agenda for this morning, we're going to quickly review the master plan scope as we did last time, just to kind of set the table. We want to discuss the key conclusions that we presented in our last presentation. Tyler is going to share some kind of baseline information on the county population and finance. And then we're going to spend the majority of our time talking about the solutions this morning. So master plan scope, what were we tasked to do? So right out of the RFP document that our team responded to, these are a couple of sections from that RFP, and I'll highlight just a couple of things. So we were asked to provide a sound, actionable, and fiscally responsible facilities plan. The scope of the master plan for the downtown campus is everything highlighted in blue on the image to the left. So it's the entire downtown campus minus the jail. And then it also includes the emergency management department, which is not on the downtown campus. So the facilities master plan should identify opportunities for preservation, potential redevelopment or readapting of current facilities, and identification of potential new facilities. And that's what we're going to go through this morning. So conclusions, this shouldn't be unfamiliar to those on the commission. We reviewed this a month ago. 3 main conclusions came out of our efforts over the last number of months. First one, county has significant space needs in the next 10 years, just as Tom mentioned a couple minutes ago. With the strong growth of Minnehaha County and Sioux Falls and surrounding communities, obviously that puts a demand on county services, and with that demand for additional county services comes pretty significant space needs. So we'll touch on that this morning. Looking at the 9 existing facilities that were part of the scope, we believe there are 3 facilities that aren't viable for long-term future use. Administration building, the Coliseum, and the Public Safety building. We'll touch on that in more detail. And then again, with expansion and additional space needs, obviously comes storage and parking requirements as well.
Good morning, Tyler Klatt with Tager Group. Now, obviously, those problems that Andrew just mentioned don't really exist without the growth in population that Minnehaha County has experienced, not only the last 14 years, but what we anticipate that growth to be over the next 30 years. In order to forecast the population growth, we used 3 different methods. The first being a cumulative annual growth rate, which took the average annual growth rate every year from 2010 to 2024 and applied that same factor every year going forward. That leads you to the 353,000 number at the top right. The second number is a little more conservative of a linear projection, just taking a straight line average of the historical growth and extrapolating that out over the next 30 years. To make a more realistic, perhaps, assumption, and the number that we used in the rest of this report, we blended those 2 numbers to lead to the projected 2055 population of 321,000. This is a table that the commission and the public should be really familiar with, and is more so to set the table for what we'll talk about near the end of the presentation. But what we're looking at here is what the county's current debt obligations are. Right now, there are there's 5 different obligations that the county has, totaling about $9 million in debt service annually. And then obviously that staggers downwards as you pay those off throughout the life of those bonds. But we'll revisit this more as we get to the project costs.
All right, solutions, the fun stuff. Any questions from the commission thus far? All right. So these first 2 slides, what we want to do is kind of narrow the focus here. So the 3 buildings that I mentioned a few minutes ago that we believe aren't viable and shouldn't be, it's not that they are not structurally viable, it's not that they're unsafe, but there are limitations, different limitations for each of these 3 where these aren't major factors in the long-term planning for the county, in our opinion. So starting with the Coliseum, really it's an underutilized asset for the county. It doesn't serve the county any significant purpose. So the county needs to consider that and understand what the long-term future of that facility could be. And another option is it could be a potential location of additional square footage that could serve potentially the public defender. The Public Safety building, being the former jail, it is challenging. It has challenges in adapting that building for different purposes. It serves the current needs of IT facilities, metro backup, storage, et cetera. But it's in a kind of a critical key location, and the recommendation we are making is that that is a placeholder for long-term future jail expansion. And then the administration building that we are in this morning, both or several factors here. Number 1, functionally, it has its challenges. Number 2, as Paul will talk about in a minute, there are significant space needs of the departments that occupy this building. And number 3, there were critical items with the envelope, with the mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems that were identified in the facility condition assessment. And it also sits in a key location that would inhibit the future expansion of the courts building. And so we are recommending that this building be replaced. And again, to kind of further focus or narrow the focus of the discussion this morning, emergency management would plan to stay in place, and then health and human services would stay at their current location, as well as equalization. Those are either newer facilities or recently renovated facilities that serve those departments well, and so there's no reason to contemplate different solutions for those departments.
Hi, Paul Volnar with HDR. Sorry about that. So you all have seen this table. Essentially, this is your 30-year need for space. If you look out 30 years, you're essentially doubling the space from what you have now. This is due to growth in the county. Essentially, you guys are growing. You're popular as far as a place to live, and more people are showing up, which is putting a strain on the space you have currently and the space you'll need in the future. So we broke this down in increments of 10 years, but really your need for administration space is now. Waiting too much longer to add more space and have space for administration is probably going to be an issue from a standpoint of exceeding what you have. You've done a great job at this point of utilizing the space you have in the admin building, the courts, public defender, emergency management. Those are the groups mentioned here. But you're at a point now where you've pretty much done what you can do with the space, and it's time to leave this space and add new space. So what we're presenting here is 70,000 square feet of administration space in a new building off on the south side here of this parking lot. The courts would be an expansion. The courts would basically go in place of this building here. So this building will be demoed. And then public defender's office, they're currently renting space at the 300 building, as well as the building behind us, so next to the museum. So looking at putting a new building potentially in the place of the Coliseum for the public defender in the future is something that we're going to talk about and look at as we move through the slides here. And then obviously emergency management. Emergency management is the only department that is not in the downtown campus, and they obviously need growth as well over the next 10, 20, and 30 years. As you can see, the majority of the space needs is in the next 10 years. The courts, that's the one thing we're not 100% on as far as the number of judges that will be added by the state. So clearly you'll need to add space for judges, and we'll kind of talk about some alternatives for the courts in the interim. So these are our project priorities. These are kind of our guiding principles, things that keep the project on the tracks throughout the project. So looking at improving, consolidating the storage of physical documents, and then meeting space needs, improving efficiencies, and exploring for swing space. Clearly, you're going to need potentially swing space in the future if you have certain departments growing. So looking at building out space, having shelled space, things like that are key to success. Maintenance and campus infrastructure, clearly parking is needed. So looking at options there, and then looking at future expansion and flexibility. Courts improvements and accommodations, so we'll be looking at that. Like I mentioned, what are the opportunities with your current building? Are there things that could be done in the interim before you expand the courts? Design quality, obviously you want to make sure that you have a building that's going to last. You want to make sure that it's going to be a building that's going to be a 50 to 100-year building, as well as site safety and security. You want to make sure you have that in every building with the current state of how things are today. Historic structures, you do have historic structures on the site, So making sure that you're meeting the requirements, with any of the historic structures on the site. And then building systems, energy efficiency, making sure that from an operational standpoint, that the buildings are energy efficient and keeping costs down for the future. And then we'll be looking at funding sources later with Tyler and project delivery as well. So this is the implementation preferred scenario. As we look at this, every single scenario that we look at, the administration building is the first phase. The reason for that is it's really kind of in the way. You have to be able to build the new in order to remove this building from this location. This location would be, as we'll start looking at the site, the location for the new courts. So we would construct the new 70,000 admin building, demo this existing building. We would have, I think it's 8 different departments. So pretty much everybody that's in this building now would continue to stay in the new admin building, starting with auditor elections, commission, HR, planning, zoning, public advocate, register of deeds, state's attorney, and then treasurer. Equalization, they would remain in their current location. And then same with public defender for now. They would continue to do business as usual until phase 2, looking at the opportunity to potentially go into a new building in the location, potentially on the site of the Coliseum. The annex building would be that kind of swing flex space at that point if public defender moved out of the annex building. And then looking at short-term solutions for the courts would be phase 3. Part of that would be looking at opportunities to take courtrooms, turn them into hearing rooms and office space. With growth over the next 5-10 years, there's probably going to be a point where you're going to be adding judges and looking for opportunities to add space without building that courthouse right away. Phase 4 would be looking at constructing the addition to the courts, and that would be a full build out of 135,000 square feet with about 25,000 square feet shelved space and fitting that space out to meet the overall 30-year needs. Are there any questions so far? Okay. So these are some of the implementation drivers that we looked at. Really, we explored 5 options, if not more. There were probably at least 3 or 4 other hybrid options that we looked at. Really making sure that we've uncovered everything that we could uncover with the campus, making sure that we have the right proposed implementation plan and solution for the county. As I read through some of these, I don't need to read through all of them. We can actually look at the site map and take a look at really how things lay out and why the implementation plan was selected. So we considered phasing logistics, long-term flexibility on the campus. Really, the campus has at least, I would say, 75 to 100 years of future expansion. There's a lot of flexibility on the site and ability to really meet the needs for the county for many, many years to come. Looking at solving the most immediate needs is the new admin building. That needs to happen first, like I said, as well as parking and making sure that you have clear space for the future expansion of the courts, which would be in this location here. Oops. Press the wrong button there. Thanks.
Yep.
So as you see the site map, I'll walk you through kind of numerically in order so you guys can follow, and really just to walk you through each of the different buildings that will be part of the 30-year master plan. So if we start with number 1, that's kind of the light green, that's the parking lot right behind us. That would probably likely be, as we propose it, a secured staff parking lot. This would be for elected officials, judges, anyone that's needing parking that would be secure. The parking structure would be across the way. It would have a skywalk that would lead to a new admin building, which is the blue building here, number 3. And then you have number 4, which is the new proposed public defender's office. And then number 5, which is the orange, which is the courts that sits in place right here. The reason why we looked at the courts being placed here rather than potentially in the Coliseum location. Coliseum location, from a standpoint of footprint, it's a little more difficult to place that building, and designability could be a little bit more of a tricky solution for how you actually connect that building to the existing courts building. There's a lot of courtrooms and things that would affect the connection point from having the courts sitting where the Coliseum would be. So selecting this space here, connection points actually allow for more flexibility and more space to design a new courthouse expansion. Equalization would remain in place, as Andrew mentioned. Health services would remain in place. And then the public safety building at some point, that would likely become the location of any jail expansion. Are there any questions so far on this? So we're going to walk you through kind of the different phases. This is what we kind of already went through, but we'd like to show you just graphically how these phases lay out. So parking across the way with a skywalk leading into the admin, so public parking, staff would park there. You'd have covered walkway across the road, allowing for just a better connection to parking for the public and staff. We have the admin building as well as the Coliseum highlighted in gray because these will be demoed as part of this phase. And then phase 2, we have the new PDO office building in place of the Coliseum, and then parking as well as a green plaza and green space out front where this building sits now. The courts expansion, we wanted to show how this would connect to the existing courts building and the overall plaza and the overall feel of this. Truly, it kind of connects the whole area down here. There's been so much change. There's a lot of green space in a lot of the neighboring areas. And so we really just want to make sure that it looks and feels kind of like everything else downtown. And then here's the complete 30-year master plan look, everything built out, and just a refresh on the downtown campus. Andrew?
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question for Paul, if you would. We're looking at the secured parking adjacent to the new courthouse. Parking is, of course, going to be an ongoing issue as we build and expand.
Yeah.
According to the plan set forth so far, is the building of secured parking going to be in tandem with the building of the courthouse? Will that area be available immediately after the building of the new administrative building and maybe the parking on the south side?
Right now, it's all conceptual, so I don't think we've decided at what point things would be closed off or, made secure. At any point, you could secure this parking lot, but if you find it to be an issue during planning, you may want to leave this open to the public until further construction.
And that should be more clear as time goes on.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, timeline. So here is a 30-year timeline. As we mentioned several times this morning, the next 10 years, I think, are really critical for the county. So you see that in the top left, that cluster of projects that are all within the next 10 years or so. I'm going to go through these individually. So starting on the second line, Phase 1A is the administration building. That and Phase 4 of the courts, we've put more definitively on the timeline based on our projections of the need. And then the rest of them in pink are more kind of suggested range of time for those projects to take place. So again, starting with the administration building, planning and construction, or planning, design and construction of that in the next couple of years. And obviously that's going to put additional strain on parking. And so we've got that pink bar of parking ramp kind of spread adjacent to the timeline of the administration building. Public defender, as noted as Phase 2 in our implementation scenario, is shown in that next 5-year period after the completion of the administration building. Emergency management has some relatively immediate needs, and so that project could be taken on anytime over the next 5 or 6 years. And relative to some of the other projects, it's a relatively small project from a cost standpoint. We get down to Phase 4, which would be the 135,000 square foot courts addition. 110,000 square feet plus or minus would be fit out as part of Phase 4, and that additional shell space would be fit out in the future as needs would arise. That would be the Phase 4A. Then the last two items that we put on here are just to make sure that we're continuing to think about these departments and these facilities. So IT, facilities, and Metro 911. Obviously, if the public safety building beyond the horizon, the 30-year horizon of this master plan, is scheduled to be replaced with new jail expansion, those three departments are going to need to find a new home. And so thinking about where and when and how that would be done probably in the latter portion of this 30-year timeline. And then something that we've spent quite a bit of time talking about is the public safety building is tied in to campus utilities and infrastructure in a significant way. And so as all of these projects are undertaken over the next 30 years, any opportunity the county has to consider decoupling that building from those different utility and infrastructure components would be wise to be doing that. It just makes the eventual replacement of that structure 30 years from now that much easier. So we're just showing that stretching across that full 30-year timeline. Any questions on the timeline?
I do have a real quick one, Andrew. Phase 4 courthouse, how many square feet is that? Is that the 100,000?
The Phase 4 is what we're proposing right now. Is it's 135,000 square feet total. 110 would be fit out. That was the 10-year needs projection.
So that's the one starting in 2033?
2030, yeah, 2034, 35, somewhere in there.
So that would be about 130,000?
135,000 is what we've got projected now. Because the reason we're doing that, Commissioner, is the 135,000 is the full 30-year need.
Mm-hmm.
Because a significant portion of that 135,000 is needed in the first 10 years.
Yeah.
We thought it was smart decision, both feasibility-wise, construction logistics-wise, and county finance-wise, to build the full 135 and fit out 110,000 plus or minus that would be needed. And then the rest of that shell space would be there to fit out in the future when additional court space is needed.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
With that timeline in mind, our next sort of objective was to figure out what does this look like financially, project cost-wise, as you project out these projects. Phase 1A, as we've talked about, or has been talked about, the administration building being the most pressing need in current dollars. We can see there, so let me back up a little bit. Each of these projects we've mapped out based on when we anticipate needing the county to start. So 2028 for phase one of the admin building, about a $58 million total project. Phase four of the courts addition, starting in 2034, would be a $150 million project, and then phase 4A of the courts addition, which is a little more flexible, as Andrew was saying. It's sort of a shell space that can be fit out when it's needed, assuming it's a 2046 project start as a $21 million total project. Those total project dollars are made up of taking 2026 construction values and using a 5% escalation factor year over year to get to whatever year they are projected to start in that project timeline. And then the soft costs column accounts for 25% of the total project, or on top of the construction cost, to account for professional design fees, furniture, all the other things that the owner is responsible for. Now, back to the debt service that we mentioned earlier. I want to spend a little time on the assumptions because these are very, very clearly assumptions and are based on historical averages and sort of what the county, working with the county staff, felt comfortable with. So taking into consideration a 4% annual market adjustment for the valuation, a 2% CPI increase, a 2.5% growth adjustment, which is the new growth the county has on top of everything else. These annual debt service numbers are based on a 20-year bond, which is historically what the county has done for publicly financed projects, and an assumed 5% interest rate. The one challenge that we struggled with was trying to level these projects against expiring debt that the county has. You can see the administration project, which is the light blue shaded line or bar graph, aligns with starting as the courthouse expansion from 2014 is paid off. As we project it out farther, though, it becomes, I don't want to say impractical, but it's not a pragmatic decision necessarily to wait for those existing bond obligations to fall off, because you're waiting for, in the example of the jail expansion, you're waiting for a roughly $3 million annual bond payment to be replaced by roughly a $5.5 to $6 million new payment. So every year you wait, that number grows exponentially, and it doesn't totally make sense, although the advantageous part of that is you try to level that levy increase as it hits taxpayers. And one other point, as we've talked about, there's a strong assumption, and it makes sense to have the jail expansion or any future jail expansion be in place of the public safety building. So all of these numbers do not include any sort of other projects that are outside of the master plan scope. And I believe there's some error, are these the correct? Okay. So these slides, so what we're looking at here is trying to project out what the levy impact would be for taxpayers. These do not include any sort of city, school, water district, any other levies. This is strictly the levy related to paying for the debt service. You can see there's two sort of significant spikes, one being in about 2028 when the administration building debt would come online, and then again in 2036 when the first courthouse phase adjustment or first courthouse phase project would come online. The blue line shows sort of the no new projects. We stay where we're at. Obviously, that gets lower as you pay off that debt into the future. The highlight there being roughly a estimated 70 cent per thousand impact for taxpayers. Maybe a little more tangible and understandable for everyone else. The county often says, what does that mean for a taxpayer who's got a $300,000 house? Based on the forecast that we have now, at its height, the county would expect a $300,000 assessed value home to have a roughly $220 hit annually for their property tax bill, specific to the bond or the debt service. To soften that, it's about $18 a month if you took that annualized. The one I want to point out too is that this isn't just $300,000 flat across 60 or across 30 years. The value of the home has increased 4% each year to keep up with the inflation numbers that we used in the previous assumptions. Any questions on these slides so far? Okay. Lastly, as Paul and Andrew have mentioned, there's a number of other projects within this that certainly could be financed through public debt or could be financed by cash. They're just smaller numbers relative to the bigger dollar amounts, so our approach here was to list these as potentially cash finance projects. The same criteria apply here. It's a 5% annual increase of inflation for construction costs, 25% makes up the soft cost total, and the dates listed reflect where in that project timeline we feel they make the most sense to start. I think that's, yeah.
So last thing this morning before opening up for additional questions, our team will be working with the smaller master plan committee to wrap up our report. So in the next, say, 2 or 3 weeks, we will finalize our report and submit that to the commission.
As far as public financing goes, this is, the numbers that we've shown reflect sort of a very high level estimate of bond costs. The right next step the county has typically taken, or the county has taken in the past and should continue to use, is bring in public finance experts like someone from Colliers to figure out what is the actual costs to issue this debt, understand what the bond market looks like currently, if there's advantageous reasons to wait to issue debt, for example, or if there's other creative ways to approach these projects. And then planning and concept design, that really involves bringing in experts to do architectural engineering, space planning to understand, we've got a very high level concept of what this plan ought to look like, but bring in an expert team to drill down into what the administration building should look like, where space, whose space is what size and where do they go, and adjacencies, and bring on a construction team to help price that as you go to make sure there's as few surprises as possible. And then also the county should consider bringing or tracking the furniture costs, IT costs, low voltage, all the other parts and pieces that make up a building that are responsible by the owner.
And then lastly, any ongoing master plan updates. Like Tom mentioned, the last time a master plan or a mini master plan was done, that was about 10 years ago. You hit that 5 to 10 year mark, that's about where you want to start redoing a master plan. There may be, I would consider that like a tune-up. You may want to look at some mini updates if you see things changing considerably from a standpoint of your growth in the county, growth in neighboring counties, which are putting pressure on your existing system. Your justice system drives a lot of this as well for the courts. So if you're starting to see major changes, we can be called in, or any group can be called in that does planning to look at how is this affecting you and how is it affecting the master plan. This is meant to be a roadmap. It's meant to be flexible and used over the next 30 years. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys implement one of the plans that we have in the master plan report. And if you have any questions, we're here to answer them.
Thank you very much. All right. We do take public comment on all our agenda items. So if there's any, this is not an action item. We will not be voting on anything today. But if there's anybody from the public that would like to address anything on the master plan, we'd love to hear from you. All right. Commission. We've been in several meetings, our building committee meetings, and this is the final product that we haven't seen yet. Any questions or comments that you'd like to make at this time? Commissioner Bleinberg, you look ready.
I am. Thank you,
Alrighty.
Mr. Chair. I want to first of all just say thank you to the partners that we worked with on this project. I think we ended up with an excellent value in the product that we received in helping us determine our future needs, and just evaluating what options we have moving forward. I also want to just mention thanks to the prior commissions that have really invested in the current campus, thinking of future expansion of the jail. We learned in this process, or I learned in this process, that it's much more cost-effective to build out a space anticipating the prior need than it is to try to add on later. And we're the beneficiaries of that right now with the jail, looking at opening the 3rd floor. So hopefully we continue to follow in those footsteps of wise planning and moving forward. I also just want to say I smile every time somebody says, do you have any questions? Because you all have been so wonderful about answering all of our questions. Every step leads to just so many additional questions, and I think that's indicative of all the moving parts and all the moving aspects of planning this far into the future with growth and projected growth, and thinking of some of the priorities that we've discussed, like finding efficiencies and just looking at the various different iterations of how this could be developed. So with thanks to everybody, I just want to mention that going forward, we would love feedback from the public. We've had a lot of open meetings about this and not a lot of public input. So as Commissioner Heisey mentioned earlier, our emails are always available, and it would be great to hear from people regarding what their thoughts are. And then I just look forward to right-sizing our plans for the future and looking at how things will continue to develop. So that's all I really have. Just thank you to everybody and looking forward to planning going forward.
Mr. Chair, I guess I'd add 2 categories of comments. I think we're going to have to dig in deeper a little bit on some more iterations around the public defender's office. I think that's the one that's been a tough nut to crack, and definitely a viable option from our consultants today, trying to make the most of that. We're already leasing extra space, so I'm not advocating that the status quo can go on forever, but we're probably going to have to iterate on this master plan. And as they mentioned, our needs can evolve over time, so every few years we'll probably have to update this anyway. But that's one that is the outlier to me that we might still need to fiddle with a little bit. But the idea of new administration building, tearing down this administration building and expanding the courthouse into it, I think that's the big idea here. Second category of comment would just be on the financing. It's interesting that this dovetails with, I think, in maybe as early even as next week, we're going to start talking about the optional half-cent sales tax to offset existing county property tax levy and the trade-offs of that. I think that will be interesting in itself. And as we go into budget season across our general fund levy, building fund levy, this bond levy, ideally we keep that flat and consistent for the taxpayer, so it's predictable. As Tyler mentioned, when you start stacking on some of these projects that are concurrent with each other, you end up getting a big spike. So are there creative, debt financing tools, this new optional sales tax tool, just what are all the tools in our toolkit to maybe level the load for the taxpayer over this 10 to 30 year time horizon? I think we'll have a little bit more flexibility to consider some options there of how we would phase certain things in, whether it's the building projects or the financing thereof. So that's kind of the 2 categories where my head is at right now, but more to come.
All right, so Commissioner Benega?
Frankly, I've been at this for a year and a half, so it's kind of old news, but I just want to say that adding 38,500 people in the last 15 years has made a significant difference in the services that we need to provide and are required to provide. So that's the driving force, plus the fact that we have buildings that aren't going to be operational efficiently, or from an ADA standpoint, or from a lot of other pieces. If I remember right, part of this space planning is based on closing Dakota Avenue, correct?
Yeah, that was one of the assumptions that we made, is the closing of Dakota Avenue. As Paul mentioned, as he showed those graphics of the implementation, that's more of a quality of design and overall campus connection of creating better quality plaza or green space as part of the downtown campus.
Thank you. With growth, there's always issues that need to be solved with that, and frankly, you can't stop growth, nor do we want to stop growth in the economic driver of the state almost. So I'm looking forward to finding a way to finalize some of this, but the need is there. There's no question about that, and frankly, we'll hopefully hear from people that want to give us some input on how we can make all this work and make it a positive environment for not only our community, but also for the staffing additions and for, frankly, the interconnections of all the departments that we have to make it more efficient for people to provide those services.
Mr. Chair, I guess I'd just note it's worth noting again that we already have space constraints as it is, and those constraints are only going to get worse over time. A lot of our infrastructure and buildings were built in a very different time with different population levels and different growth rates, and we don't want to run into a situation or a scenario down the road where we run out of space across the board and have to build all at once, which is why I think this approach, this phased approach, is a good way to look at this, and also layering in the debt obligations over time so as to not overburden taxpayers and our own finances, I think would be the ultimate goal as we look at this roadmap. In the immediate future, I think it might be a good idea, as mentioned previously, to put together some kind of fan study to look at how we can best finance these projects over time.
All right. I guess my few comments, little extension of thanks to former commissioners Barth and Bender, who were very much in favor of the space needs or this whole campus master plan. And I look at this board and think to future boards of, we have a roadmap. We can't ignore the obvious. I mean, we know, if we're not growing, we're going backwards, right? And we know that optimistically we're going to grow, and it's at a very conservative pace. But the building we're in is 70 years old, and we made it look good a few years ago. But there's things we couldn't take care of without gutting the building, replacing all the electrical that's 70 years old, replacing the HVAC and all the dampers and everything that's in here. You need to gut this building. We know that the exterior of the building, those beautiful blue panels on the exterior are kind of fading and showing their age, but even worse is the windows, the glass. We know that it would cost just millions of dollars just to replace the windows. So this building, when it was built, the old courthouse was 70 years old, and this one's approaching 70 years old. And that big wide central hallway, it's just at the time thanks to the people that were involved in doing this, all these pillars that are all over inside this building. If you look at the construction, this building has served its purpose very well, but it's time to move forward and plan for the next 70 years. We're looking at least 40 years out, but most of us will be retired. A few of us might be dead, but we have to plan for our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. And that's what we're doing, and we're leaving a roadmap open for future commissions to modify and adjust to what the needs of the time are. I think our immediate needs are pretty well laid out, and we really need to start working towards the goal of taking care of business, our employees, and the citizens of Minnehaha County and what they expect. So, it's been a process, and we're at the end of the beginning, and we're going to really have to start getting after it at this point. So thank you for everybody that's been involved in it up to this point, and look forward to the ongoing discussion. So, all right. Moving on, we have numerous presentations today. First one we'll begin with is the Southeastern Behavioral Health presentation. We have Deborah Faini and here to present. I think more than one of you.
Hi, thanks for giving us this opportunity to share our story with you. I'm Debbie Faini. I'm the Director of Recovery and Project Development. But before I get started, I'd like to introduce our CEO, Jen Quigley.
Hi, so I am actually the new CEO of Southeastern. I started a whole 2.5 weeks ago, so I'm really far in. But I just wanted to introduce myself a little bit to all of you and let you know how excited I am to be here in Minnehaha County and to be helping to provide these services here. Just a bit of a background. I felt like this position was a perfect fit for me because I have an associate's degree in criminal justice, a bachelor's degree in sociology, and an MBA in health administration. So I felt like the depth and all the services that Southeastern provides was just a really good fit for me. One thing that I learned this week that I thought was very interesting is the amount of services that our agency actually provides for the residents of Minnehaha County. And while the financial impact of that is great, not only with the residents that live here, but the actual impact of stabilization is really high. So the value of services that we actually provide here in Minnehaha County is $11,366,949. So that impact not only for residents that are struggling, but also residents that are just needing a little bit of extra help is pretty significant. So I just wanted to introduce myself, and Debbie knows a lot about the agency. So.
So anyways, just want to start with our mission, empowering people to discover their directions in life in this changing world. And Southeastern is committed to providing hope for today, growth for tomorrow, and directions for life. We have 5 offices in Sioux Falls, 8 homes and assisted living, and 2 apartment buildings in Sioux Falls alone. Start with our children counseling and children's services. We have, as you can see, provide individual family counseling, many different group and trauma therapies. Some of our programs that we have is our home-based counseling, which is designed to assist development of stable family environment in which children can grow. Our adolescent and SUD services emphasizes on that co-occurring disorder and the needs. Our JJRI, that's where we focus on the justice-involved youth of our city. Systems of care includes a wraparound approach to care coordination and service delivery for our youth and families of complex needs. It helps families navigate and access services while giving them the skills they need to become more self-reliant. Our CAS, Coping and Support Training Program, that's a program we use to help students develop coping skills and healthy behaviors, including in how to ask for help. And in that program, which is really a great tool, is it also has 4 sessions for engaging their families, engaging the parents into that program. We currently are in 58 schools within our counties that we serve. Our community support services, this location's over on our Cliff Street. Some of the programs that we have are our care program. We focus on clients who will have that SMI, that severe mental illness. Within that, we have the impact program, which gives them a little bit more of, they focus more on their skills, their daily life skills. Our clubhouse gives them more of help and engages with their connecting with the community and does more community outing and more of that social interaction. Our first episode of Psychosis works with children that are kids that are 15 through the age of 40 that are going through that first episode. Employment Connection supports and educates, guides, and individuals with mental illness and developmental disability in gaining more employment skills. Our transition house, which is out on Russell Avenue, provides safe and stable housing with intensive coordinated services. So we provide services and programming while they're at one of our housing. Our homeless outreach program and provides intensive support services to help stabilize symptoms and promote high possible levels of independent living. Our mobile crisis team has trained professionals that go out in our community to assist with de-escalation and create a safe plan. And as you can see, an MCT responded to 231 calls in 2025. Our co-responder, which will be starting again here soon in June, we go out with the Sioux Falls Police Department to provide on-the-scene mental health support with them. And that runs through the summer, and it goes Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. Our link recovery services, so we provide all of the same services that through our outpatient or our care program. In August of 2024, we teamed up with Avera at the link, and we have done, we do their assessments. We've done a little over 400 assessments since we've been there at the link. We also provide a walk-in service, so people can just come in if they are requesting a mental health or a CD assessment or a domestic violence assessment. And then they also can just walk into the link if they need services as far as like needing an ID card or a birth certificate. We can help guide them into getting those connected with those resources also. Our Cayman Court is a 24-bed assisted living facility. And that is north of town here. As you can see, it provides a lot of the same services. We also focus on our community outings with our clients there too. Our education and assistance program provides special education and service coordination within our 4 counties. We also provide that transitional service for clients that are transitioning into that adult programs. Within that, we have a day program. That day program focuses on more of that vocational, social, and life skills, along with that community outing for our clients. We have the residential services. So in addition to our adult day services, the residential services provides that 7 days support. And just our, humanity, opportunity, purpose, and empowerment. And, this is how we move people forward and strengthen our communities. Anybody have any questions?
Okay, before we go to questions from the commission, we always take public input every agenda item. Anybody here like to address the commission on the services provided by Southeastern Behavioral Health? Okay, commission.
Mr. Chair, I'll just want to welcome Jen, right? Welcome to the community. We'll see if this is a fair question when you're only 2.5 weeks in, but I know Debbie is a veteran of the link, and you're on the front lines of the link, Debbie, being on that second floor, and I think we're about 5 years into the link aspect, and I think it's been a success in that Link 1.0 has achieved its objective. I kind of describe it as now a police officer picking somebody up that's intoxicated at 2 a.m. before the link had 2 options: the county jail, which burdens the county, or our health system's ER services. And they really hadn't committed a crime, and they really weren't in a medical emergency. So we needed some middle ground. But I still see room for improvement. I think we're all rallying around the link. What do the next 5 years look like? But I would phrase it to you, Jen, this way: do you have any first impressions on the link and how you would compare to other communities you've been in as far as how valuable a resource it is to the community? Just your first impressions.
Yeah, I was able to, Debbie gave me a tour of the link actually last week, so I'm glad that I got that tour before I came here. So I have actually, my past, I've actually done services and provide credentialing, accreditation services across the U.S. and actually in Australia and in Ireland as well. So this is a great question. Just being here for 2.5 weeks and in the area for about a month, I think that the ability to be able to really meet people's needs based on that individual piece, like you said, a lot of people experience maybe intoxication or drug addiction, haven't really committed a crime. There needs to be a space that allows that rehabilitation to happen. And so I see that the link is a significant need in this community, and it's very innovative the way that this community has not only implemented the link, but also the ride-alongs with the police department. I can't remember what we call that, but co-responder. Thank you. That in and of itself is very innovative in my view. So yeah, I think it's a big need.
Yeah, and the link just continues to be a great public-private partnership, with the main funders being Avera and Sanford, our health systems, and then city, county, our local governments. But knowing that we have other private entities like Southeastern that are willing to physically move into that space and be part of the solution. So thanks to Debbie, all the work that has gone into that, and thanks in advance to Jen for helping us maybe take that to the next level over the next 5 years. So appreciate you being here.
All right. Thank you, ladies. I guess my only comment would be, and Commissioner Blandberg and I had this conversation yesterday. We do a lot of funding to outside agencies, and obviously you guys are one of them. And we always, think back, what's the return to the taxpayers? If we didn't do this, what would the county have to do? So your work is measurable, and we do appreciate what you do. So appreciate you being here to update us in the community. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Board of Mental Illness Annual Presentation. Seems like.
Morning.
Good morning.
Tom Weirheim and Aaron Johnson with the Board of Mental Illness. We're the co-chairs. We're here for our annual presentation as it's close to budget time. We prepared kind of a presentation about how we go about things and where kind of our when and how it relates to our budget and where our costs are. So, how do we use that on here?
Side, yep.
Okay.
On the far right.
I need new contacts.
Oh.
Scroll. Okay, all right. So when someone's taken in on a mental illness hold, our primary concern is whether is weighing the personal liberty versus the public safety. So we're trying to keep the public safe, whether the person continues to meet criteria for a mental illness hold when they're taken in and placed on that hold. And they can be placed on that for a variety of reasons.
The reasons that someone might be placed on a mental illness hold include, and are limited to danger to self, danger to others, or an inability to care for self.
So people that can place a hold, when a person is initially put on a hold, a lot of times it comes from law enforcement. In addition to that, anyone over the age of 18 can petition for a warrant. And it's presented to Aaron or myself. We take a look at it, we review it. Sometimes we'll touch base with our qualified mental illness professionals, qualified mental health professionals, and ask if we've experienced this person in the past, or what if we need to fill in any blanks. And then in addition, they can be placed at the ER by the doctor or any other designated QMHP there. So those are the individuals we see placing the hold, being the petitioner in the matter. When the person is on a hold, the next step is an evaluation.
So after a hold is initiated, then one of our board-appointed QMHPs goes out to evaluate the patient. They would look over the medical record, supporting documents. They may talk to the doctor. Usually they would talk to the physician, speak with family and friends and nurses caring for the patient. And if they go to the jail, they would talk to correctional officers at the jail. Then they would give us a call and make a recommendation on whether we should release or continue the hold.
Yeah. So yeah. After that evaluation is done, we get the phone call from the QMHP, and then we talk it over with them. We decide are we going to continue this hold due to a danger to themselves, others in the community. Whether there's still an inability to care for themselves at that time. Sometimes they're just intoxicated and we let them go. And that's, we have to kind of parse out what's the mental illness or what's the chemical dependency issue. If they're continued, we transfer to a different facility, whether the hospital can no longer, they don't meet the needs of medical care anymore, but they have mental illness issues, so we send them to behavioral health or the human services center. Sometimes we release them due to lack of criteria. Like I said, if we can differentiate whether it's an alcohol issue at the time or they've gotten stabilized, a safety plan is in place, we'll release them, or if it's for medical reasons. For instance, if someone's intubated and they're not going anywhere at the hospital, we'll release it for medical reasons. If they come to and the doctors say they still kind of meet that criteria, they can always re-petition.
So once we continue the hold, it's valid for up to 5 days, excluding weekends or holidays. If there's a weekend in there, we get 6 days. And if there's a holiday and a weekend, we can hold the patient up to 7 days. The QMHP does an updated evaluation each day. So our QMHPs reevaluate every day to make sure that, or to determine whether the patients meet criteria, or if they no longer meet criteria, then we can release the hold. Sometimes a patient may no longer meet criteria for us, but maybe a friend or family has filed a drug and alcohol IVC, and so then we would release in favor of that IVC. The hearings for us take place on Tuesdays and Fridays. So every Tuesday and Friday we have hearings in the mornings, and we, along with 2 lay board members, make a decision on whether to commit or to release that person.
So when we do commit them, they can be ordered for hospitalization up to 90 days. At that point, it's out of the board's hands. It is up to the provider of how long to hold them. They don't, again, after that, any discharge is strictly made by the provider. It's not made by any decision of the board. If they are held for that 90 days, they're subject to a review hearing. Those all happen mostly in Yankton County, though. We rarely handle those in Minnehaha County. The only event would be is if we can't get a bed at HSC or a longer-term facility, then they're still in Minnehaha County, and we would handle that review hearing at that time. As far as our numbers, here's kind of the increases over the years. We always plan on an increase of about 8% per year, kind of commensurate with the population of Minnehaha County. Those numbers are not every hold. Those are just the Minnehaha County residents. We have quite a few people who are from out of county and get placed on a hold in Minnehaha County. That's usually an additional 5 to 10%, so 100 plus holds a year from out of county that end up here.
So are these hearings or holds?
Those are holds.
That's
The
holds.
number of hearings, probably estimate
Few
about
a week,
yeah,
probably.
about 5 a week end up on going as far as a hearing. So 250 hearings a year probably.
Okay.
So as far as our costs, we're always tied to that number. Our budget will increase as our holds increase. We've been able to keep our costs pretty low, just based upon Medicaid expansion has helped some of that. We see fewer hospital bills from our part, and as our team has gained experience, we become more efficient ourselves, and so have our QMHPs. We were here recently talking about that additional increase, and we've kind of built that into our budget for next year too, as a multiple step to see if we can maintain the quality of QMHPs that we have. So, anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay. Public input, comment, questions? My question is, how come we have more holds than hearings? I'm not connecting dots somewhere.
Absolutely.
A lot of times a patient will stabilize. They get back on medication and they don't need to remain in the hospital. They don't need that commitment. If the patient doesn't stabilize and remains unsafe and a danger to others or themselves, then we would have to have that hearing at the conclusion
Okay.
of those 5, 6, or 7 days.
So that QMHP will call family members and get a safety plan in place and talk to other individuals to make sure that that person has a place to go and is in a safe position, and then we don't have a hearing.
So most patients stabilize, they come in, they're seen, receive care, and then are released.
The other thing we've started to track over the last couple of years is number of days a person's on a hold to kind of see, because we kind of felt that they were getting more severe. And so we started to track that, and it's about a day and a half per hold. That stayed pretty consistent. So we can kind of see, all right, here's how many of those people are still on a hold on a second day, a third day. And our QMHP has to continue to meet with those every day, so we can kind of track that as well.
Okay. Additional questions, comments, Commission? Commissioner Blindberg.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Could you tell us just a little bit more about your budget constraints going forward?
I think our biggest concern this year is to increase the QMHP's pay. Overall, I think we've done pretty well. We've reduced the budget over the years, and we've stayed within what we were given.
Yeah, we got it pretty well dialed in, I think, as far as the progression. And being able to track our numbers, we can kind of build that percent onto our budget year over year. And so that's why we're able to keep it pretty tight. But again, the things we don't know, that we don't know how any Medicaid restrictions will hinder that. That's yet to be seen. I don't think it'll be to a great degree, and hopefully we'll see it kind of in this first year here and then be able to adjust going forward.
We're also kind of a non-traditional department. I mean, we're pretty small, and so it's just a different kind of department.
Susan helps us out a lot.
Yeah, she does.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, just got a quick question. Just curious where people are coming from for holds. Is the jail? Are they already being treated in a hospital? Just general members of the public, and I have a rough idea of who's getting holds placed on them.
We have a lot of law enforcement holds. So holds on individuals when law enforcement responds. So law enforcement responds to a call, maybe a domestic dispute or something. Somebody's got a knife and then they threaten to harm themselves. And in that situation, law enforcement may place a hold if they have probable cause to place the hold.
Right.
Sometimes, very often, the doctor and the ER would place a hold if a person comes in following an intentional overdose. Those would be two examples of holds that we would get frequently.
Yeah, I would say more than 50% are law enforcement holds.
I would agree with that, yeah.
So.
And when an individual is put on a hold, where are they placed? Is that in the jail or at a hospital? Are they being observed or forced to stay at a certain location?
Typically behavioral health, as long as they're appropriate for that facility. If they're not appropriate for that facility, they may be at the jail. Jail is the last option. We obviously would try to keep them in a hospital, either behavioral health or a medical hospital, before going to
Kind
jail.
of contingent on whether they're violent or nonviolent,
Correct.
or how serious the case is.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
All right, we have a presentation from the Glory House. Kelly.
Good morning. I'm Kelly Cleveringa. I'm the program manager at Glory House.
And I'm Carrie Joldersma. I'm the clinical manager at Glory House.
All right. So thanks for allowing us to come here today and share a little bit about what we do. Glory House provides residential and outpatient addiction care to the people in our community, helping them to move towards recovery, stability, and a new beginning. We're going to show you a little bit about the work that Glory House does in our community, the services we provide, and why partnership with the county matters in our work. So to start off first, Glory House's mission is helping people claim their lives with Christian compassion, resources, and support. We try to live out that mission by providing compassion and structure, while also treating our clients with dignity. We want to give them the opportunity to be given accountability, support, and the resources they need for recovery. Our goal at Glory House is not just to stabilize people. immediately. We want to make sure that we are setting them up for lasting change and success. Glory House was founded in 1968 by Roger Fredrickson, and the initial purpose was people coming out of prison having nowhere to go. So he started off with that, and things have evolved over the years to becoming more of a treatment setting instead of just providing housing. We still use his inspiration to treat people that come to us with compassion and practical support. And Roger's biggest mission was just instilling in people the belief that creating a better life is possible. Our residential program consists of 2 separate residential facilities. We have our men's building that holds up to 77 people. And then Sands Freedom Center is our women's facility that holds up to 40 people. Together, these 2 buildings provide structure, sober living environments where our clients access treatment, case management, and daily support. We found that recovery requires more than just a single service. So if we just provide them with counseling, that doesn't quite do the trick. We have to treat the whole person, factoring in stability, accountability, and just making people in a safe setting where they can move forward. Something that makes Glory House different is that when we are doing treatment, we're also pairing it with practical supports. Some of the different things that our clients will get involved with while they're at Glory House is transition support, case management, employment services, healthcare navigation, and other evidence-based strategies to keep our clients engaged. We want to make sure that we're using a whole person approach to help their recovery continue beyond their time with us. When people come into our residential program, they're typically with us an average of 90 to 120 days, and during that time, they're receiving all of those supports that I mentioned. Talking about those additional supports that we provide, we want to make sure that while providing the treatment, the person is also strengthened in other areas of their life, and we're creating a realistic path towards them being able to live independently. Some of the things that includes for our case management department is making sure that when everybody that comes to us gets an ID, a social security card, birth certificate, clothing, hygiene, and meds. So those first couple of days with us are just making sure that they have all of their basic needs accomplished, and sometimes that's all we get accomplished with them, and that's okay because they're still leaving better than they started off. Employment assistance can include skill building, helping with applications, job searching, community referrals, and we also do volunteer work with our clients. The big hurdle for a lot of our clients is just pointing them in the direction of people that will work with them. We have 4 community health workers that assist with healthcare needs, making sure people have their needs met and can stay as physically healthy as they can, so they can also work on all those other life areas we talked about. And then we do a lot of contingency management, working with our clients in an incentive-based way versus a punishment-based way. Our clients have typically received a lot of punishment in their life, and it hasn't been all that effective. So we have tried to flip that around and use incentives to help with behaviors. One of the programs that we do that is a little bit different than our residential addiction treatment is the community transition program. This program is just for people that are coming out of Department of Corrections custody. They're not with us for primary counseling needs, but they're with us for transition assistance. So they're going to be able to receive all of those same supports in case management, employment, community health work. And then our big goal for them is just discharge planning. How can we get them to a safe place that they can be successful in when they leave us? The majority of the people that are in our community transition program, while they're not there for addiction needs, the majority of them are participating in some type of counseling service or aftercare as well.
I'll talk a little bit about our counseling services. So our counseling services are not just a one-size-fits-all, meaning all of our clients do not do just the same thing. We offer a lot of different paths that they can do because all of our clients have different histories. They're in different stages of their recovery. So our individual and our group counseling services work together to meet our clients where they're at. Our goal is to match that with them so that we can meet them at their right point of their recovery. We want to be able to address their trauma, their mental health, and give them practical skills that they can be using. There is a variety of groups for not just to have them, just to have them. Our purpose of that is to be able to have early recovery skills, relapse prevention. We also have clients that need trauma responsive support, and we also need to be working on building relationships. We have parenting skills, emotion regulation, and then decision making as well. It's not to have complexity for its own sake. The purpose is to give clients the practical tools that they need for the reality of their lives and to support their long-term recovery that they have. In 2026, we expanded part of our mental health counseling services by getting ART involved, which is part of trauma, is a trauma tool to help it reduce intrusive thoughts and triggers. We also launched our RISE group, which is a relapse prevention group that is built around resilience, self-awareness, and practical coping skills for when they are experiencing return to use or having some triggers, thoughts of use. And then we also will be adding interactive journaling to our program, which is another way to help our clients reflect, set goals, and create lasting positive change to their behaviors. And then this is some examples of our current counseling programs that we offer. So we have early recovery skills, relapse prevention, co-occurring needs, emotion regulation, relationship skills, and addressing how the thinking impacts behavior. Together, these counseling groups help us stay responsive to the real barriers that our clients face. And then the reason that we offer more than one single treatment track is to help them build a system that can support them long term.
All right, so one of the newer things we've offered at Glory House is an activities program. So we really believe that getting people involved in our community, helping them find things they're interested in is one of the most important parts of their recovery. Many of our clients have never experienced free time, recreation, been in our community without drugs and alcohol on board. So we have an activities coordinator that helps them practice sober lifestyles, build healthy routines, create new memories. And really we just say, let's find out what you're into and have you do some of that. Hopefully build up some friends and support and find something that you're likely to continue with when you leave us. We ask that our clients do 2 recovery activities per week. So anything that is a sober setting, and we'll have people that are there to support them. And our activities coordinator is responsible for introducing people to what their options are. She does a lot of fitness, art, music, sports, concerts. We do equine therapy in Hills, Minnesota, just trying to give them a broad range of ideas, what's available to them. I'm just going to talk briefly about what Glory House's partnership is like with the county. A lot of our referrals are coming to us from pathways that are county connected. So court services, public defenders, social services, and behavioral health partners. Our county partnership has also helped make growth possible, including support tied to the land used for our apartment expansion. And we just wanted to say thank you for this active partnership that keeps people connected to treatment, housing stability, and moving forward. All right, so then for the Glory House Apartments, this was vision came to us because we just didn't have anywhere for our people to go and they left us. So we decided we would build our own building and they could go there. The Glory House Apartments are right on our campus and they help address the gap that we were seeing for affordable housing, and they keep them right next to treatment, right next to case management, right next to their community health workers. It really helps to create a stronger bridge from recovery for recovery and stability. We opened phase 1 of the Glory House apartments in 2019 with 25 efficiency units, and then phase 2 is open in 2024, bringing the total up to 76 units, including studio apartments, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments. We also have a program called the SHARE program, which is funded through the state, and that offers funding for deposit and rent for people that are qualified because of having difficulty with substance use disorders. To wrap up here, I just wanted to share how this continuum of services really helps create real change over time. The people that are coming to us are usually coming from incarceration, inpatient treatment, homelessness, jail. Nowhere is better when they're coming to us. So one of the stories that I really like to share is about one of our current apartment tenants. He's been living in the apartments for a couple years, but prior to that, he had spent about 40 years in prison and had refused parole every time it came up. So his case manager was grasping at straws and called me and said, will you try to talk to this guy and see if he'll talk to you, if you can try to get him to leave prison. So I talked to him and said, nothing about your story is that unique to me. We do this all the time. This is our specialty. We're here for exactly what you need. So he was able to come through our residential program, and he's been living in our apartments for a couple of years, and he's never been able to live independently. He's been an adult in prison his whole life. And he does great. He's kind of the welcoming committee for new people that move into the apartments. Is a beautiful man to have around and kind of show our story and how well it works. So the last thing, I just have some quotes from some of our happy customers that left us, and thank you for letting us share about Glory House and the role county has in helping us to be successful. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, well, before we go to questions, public comment, anybody want to address the commission? Commissioners, questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Thank you for being here, Kelly and Carrie. Appreciate you taking the time to give us the update. I just had one question about the wraparound services. Can you remind me when that process starts? When does DOC reach out to you, or what does that look like?
Yep. So usually Department of Corrections is contacting me about 6 months before someone's released because they want to get that person on the calendar so they're not sitting in prison past that time. It doesn't always work that way, but they try to initiate it about 6 months, and I try to get them set up for as soon as I can to their release date. With those community transition placements, we don't put a time frame on it. A lot of those people are disabled people or elderly people that are waiting on Social Security or disability benefits to be able to transition to independent living. So some of them stay with us for a very long time waiting for that process.
Okay. Well, thank you to both of you and your staff and your board and all the people that are doing such good work. We appreciate you.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question. Just wanted to comment that homelessness and housing insecurity seems to be on a rise in our community, and just wanted to ask what kind of demand are you seeing, and do you foresee down the road this issue continuing to get worse?
So for our apartments, the demand has always been high. The follow through from the people that are applying for our apartments goes up and down. So getting people to provide their pay stubs and their birth certificate and all the things that we have to do for our affordable housing requirements can be a struggle. So we do have some vacancy at times because of that, but the interest is always there. We hold walk-in applications 4 days a week, and people are coming in constantly applying for those apartments. It's really created an opportunity in our community for people that were consistently pushed into hotels in downtown locations because of their criminal history. And one of my favorite things about these apartments is when you look out the fourth floor windows, you see grass and houses, and in the Glory House, it's not bars and casinos and the types of things that really cause our people problems. So I'm really happy that it's an option for them.
Thank you.
One of the issues that we've been addressing, and I'd like to have you talk maybe just very briefly about this, is recidivism rates. And, what do you see? How do you help? And maybe you have numbers that you can share. That's the population that you primarily deal with. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can't give you any numbers off the top of my head, but I can tell you that we have a lot of, I call them valued customers, which are people that have been there multiple times. And the best, for a long time, we were interviewing these people that were coming back into services going, what happened? What were you missing last time that you're back here again? And we were consistently getting the same answer. I just wasn't ready. You gave me everything I needed. If I would have listened to it, I probably would have done better, but I just wasn't ready. And because of how many chances it takes people, I would say there is a couple different gentlemen in our residential program right now that this is their 8th or 9th time with us. Because of the people we're willing to take, because of we don't have a lot of restrictions on criminal histories, things like that. We are maybe the only option in the state for some people, and it can seem like, are we even being helpful to this person the 8th time through? It hasn't worked all those other times. But if we're their only option, we're willing to give it another try. I think the services that Carrie's department offers with really any counseling related need you may have, we have a group or a counselor to address that. We've come a long ways from, I'm almost at 17 years at Glory House, and in the beginning it was intensive outpatient treatment, corrective thinking, it was a couple of different things, and we weren't addressing trauma, and we weren't treating mental health as a full part of the issue. I hope that with continued increases in this department and trying new things, we'll continue to see more success.
I guess from my perspective, it'd be interesting to know if there is a way for you to track that in any way, shape, or form. Just the thought of peer-to-peer, you talk about the person that says, I just wasn't ready, and here I am again, and, how does that person, or how can that person help that next person to be ready?
And we have our peer recovery.
Yep, so
program.
One of our things our activities coordinator does is she has peer coaches. So those are people that have successfully completed their program, and they will come back and be a friend, a mentor, support.
Good.
We try to target the people that have been through our program more than once, the people that really have no support, and just people we know are really high risk and we don't know if we're going to make it. We try to hook them up with those peer coaches so they have at least one person.
And especially like our younger people coming in as well. They we try to target that too, that they get hooked up with somebody that can be a positive influence then on them too. Because you see that a lot, where somebody is younger and getting involved in the criminal justice system, and you're like, that's just gonna continue to cycle if you do not find that interruption in their life, so.
And my comments go back to, again, make a prior comment with Commissioner Bleinberg. Taxpayers and citizens ask, why do we support this? And it's nice to be able to say, these are the numbers, these are the answers. And I'm appreciative of what you do, as most of us up here, I thought maybe all of us are up here are. So thank you for what you do. And I'm just trying to put numbers or put answers so that when people ask those questions, why do you give X number of dollars, we can say, well, because it saves us.
I heard your inbox is always open, so I can email that over to you.
Please.
Just not off the top of my head.
All righty. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
All right. Last presentation is from Human Services, and our recorder has noticed that I'm going to need a break right after that because we've been going for a couple hours. So We'll do our human services presentation. We're going to take a 5-minute recess after that.
Good morning. Still morning so far. Lori Montes, Assistant Director at Human Services. I'm here to kind of start our conversation about budget and what things have looked like at Human Services and what we're hoping to accomplish going forward. So just to start out, kind of just a brief overview for people that maybe are not familiar with Human Services. As far as budget, our budget is about $4.3 million. Safe Home, which is our permanent supportive housing program, is also under our umbrella, and they are just over $1 million. So, combined, our department is just over $5 million, which sounds like a lot of money, but I'll just say a lot of good things happen through the programs that those dollars support. That does support 7 programs, and so we have our Safe Home program, we have our Alliance program, which is our jail reentry program, Community Engagement, which works with individuals and families to get them housed and connected to resources that they need. Our Emergency Relief Program, which is our financial assistance program for folks needing emergent assistance with things like rent and utilities, medications, funeral costs, those types of things. We have our 2 veteran service officers, and so getting those connections for veterans to hopefully get the compensation and benefits that they are so deserving of. We have our medical program that helps provide assistance to people who have been hospitalized for an emergent reason and have no insurance. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention our front desk, our administrative team, so 4 staff that really make all those connections, screen people, get them in the right direction, and connected to the right services to start us out. Let's see. So we have 29 full-time employees. 6 of those are at our Safe Home program. 23 of those are Human Services staff. And then Safe Home, being a 24/7 facility, also has 12 to 15 variable hour or part-time staff folks. When we talk about systemic challenges, really these don't change, right? Year to year, you probably are familiar with these, that we always kind of talk about the same issues that we encounter in our community and trying to help connect people to the resources that are needed. So the largest budget item for us, and one of our biggest priorities that pretty much all of our programs work towards in some respect, is housing. Trying to get homeless individuals housed or getting people rehoused, prevent evictions, all of those types of things. And so our staff are pretty good at knowing where the resources are, trying to find those accessible, affordable housing units for people. Transportation is another ongoing issue in our community. It's been around for as long as I have been providing services in one way or another, which has been a lot of years now. Actually, we're talking decades. And so one of the places that we work with in trying to help with transportation is through our bus system. So working with Sioux Area Metro and VIA, who is now helping run that bus program. And one of the ways that we're involved with them is that county is the administrator for the Pass It On program, which are free single-ride bus passes to those that meet income eligibility guidelines to get them connected to things like employment or job searches, therapy appointments, all of those kinds of things that we've already heard a lot about already this morning. And so one of our roles then as administrator of that program is really just to continue to advocate to provide that program. We've been fortunate that the city, even with this changeover, has been willing to help support that and provide that to folks in need. And actually, kind of some good news with that program was they increased our number of passes, which we've asked for probably decades, to 60,000 passes this year, up from 40,000. And so that was kind of a nice piece, and we hope to be able to better meet people's transportation needs through that. Employment is another systemic challenge that's out there that we get involved with in various ways, mostly by referring people to some of the resources that are out there to help people both obtain and maintain employment. That's the one of the things that we see as far as a need area ongoing is helping folks to stay employed once they have a position. So maybe it's helping get them connected to resources like the Department of Labor that offers a lot of programming to help people kind of expand their skill sets and access to supports. And then finally, another systemic challenge we see ongoing is just that need for supportive services and for people to connect. A lot of programs, we're fortunate here, I think. We do have a lot of programs that are available to folks that are in need in our community. However, a lot of times they have waiting lists or there's time frames involved before they can get connected to services. And so we at Human Services do what we can to kind of bridge some of those gaps for people maybe waiting to get into services in some of the programs. Accessibility, availability of those resources is huge, as well as one thing that we've had a lot of conversations about recently is just long-term support. So there's a lot of programs that provide those short-term supports, short-term being, maybe 3 months, 6 months, but a lot of the folks, have longer-term needs than that. And so it's really trying to figure out who we can plug in to help fill that gap that's there in those services. Just briefly, a little bit of progress information on goals that we started with last year that are continuing in 2026. One of the areas of focus for us has been professional development plans, really trying to help our staff be the best tool, the best equipped to provide services to folks. And so helping them to identify for themselves, as well as through some of our coaching, what their needs are as far as improving their skill sets, and then helping them to come up with an individualized plan for themselves on how they can develop those skills. I think this is really important as far as keeping our staff engaged as well. Sometimes when you're doing this kind of service for folks that are challenging, they're, have been involved in trauma, they maybe experienced mental health challenges or substance use issues, that staff really, in order to continue long-term in the field, need to have some good skills themselves for self-care and that kind of thing. And so that can be built into those professional development plans. Another piece we've worked on that will continue in 2026 is really just connecting with other trainings that are available. And so we've worked with Think 3D. 5 of our staff towards the end of last year attended Leaders of Tomorrow with Think 3D. And so that provided opportunity for them to actually sit in these training sessions with folks that have been justice impacted and kind of walk along with them as they try and figure out what that journey to recovery looks like, and helping them to do that. And especially that was mostly our Alliance program who works with that population. So I think they found that extremely beneficial in making those connections. Another collaboration that we've been working on for multiple years, but it's kind of exciting, it's now coming to fruition, is the Housing Hub. And so you guys have probably heard some about that. And so it's really the city spearheads that piece, and they actually are now just launching. Hopefully this week, we've done some beta testing with some of our staff and some other folks in the community. And so I think they're really ready to move forward on helping that housing hub to just be a better streamlined process to help people find open, available apartments that fit whatever their needs may be for housing. And then finally, just something that we're always working on is recruiting more options for housing. Again, that's our biggest expenditure, certainly our biggest need for folks. And so working with additional landlords when we can do that, educating them about what the county can do to provide assistance to help people get into housing, as well as hopefully maintain their housing ongoing. We work with transitional programs like the St. Francis House, who's been a great partner for us in working with homeless families. And then just continuing to explore other options for additional opportunities and resources for both individuals and families that we work with in trying to meet their needs as far as housing. So beyond shelter and beyond just providing rent, right? What are those other needs and how can we fill that gap?
All right, good morning, Commission. I'll try to sail through the rest of this fairly quickly. So our key considerations when looking at our budget for 2027, 25 and 26 have been interesting because we really have been on the coattails of having other services and funding streams that have been available that are no longer available. For example, South Dakota Cares. That wrapped up, and so we're launching this year as kind of that year we're gonna fly solo, we're doing it on our own. So when we looked at 2027, we started looking at the anticipated growth of our community, which we used kind of about a 3% average, and there's been a lot of numbers thrown around today, so I'm hopeful that we're close. The cost savings through streamlining services, I think that's been a goal for us for multiple years. Looking at our community and trying to fill the gaps. We only need to be where we need to be, and if we aren't needed, we aren't there. We partner, but then we don't need to be the front runner. And so we really have worked hard to streamline services. And then using the data-driven insights, we've had multiple assessments in our community that have been effective at showing where the needs are. It's developing the how-to and what do we do. It's the who, it's the what, and it's the when. That becomes the real question for that. So we really are working on better developing our reports internally, as well as really trying to access those community assessments and being on some of those teams so that we can not only offer input, but then we get the feedback as well. So the potential impacts that we really needed to look at, she's not there. Can I do this? Yeah, just. Okay. The potential impacts to the 2027 budget. As has kind of been noted today and listening to some of the other presentations, it was great to have Southeastern here, Glory House, the mental health team. It was interesting just to know that we're involved with all of them. And so it's been a pleasure to hear what services they have and the connectedness that we're working to create. And it also is good to hear that all of us are really focused on some of the challenges that we have ahead when we look at the federally funded assistance programs. There's been numerous budget cuts and grant cuts because of what's happening at the federal level, so we're all very aware and how that impacts one another. You've also heard today, and us included, are going to be challenged by the Medicaid eligibility edits that are coming in 2027. We've had some good conversation. I had a conversation with, there was actually 5 state people that were on the phone call with me talking about Medicaid eligibility, what that could look like, how it could impact us, and the potential numbers that we could be looking at. Also looking at the broader economic instability. When we look at that, we really start looking at it affecting all of the areas of those social determinants of health. Education and housing and all the things that impact our community's ability to function, live, learn, and have a little fun in our community too. And then we look at the ongoing collaboration. A prime example of that is Heart of Service earlier You guys approved that $30,000 from the Community Foundation. So our office is just kind of that pass-through and kind of doing a leadership role in bringing community-wide training so that we do promote that shared language, the positive and consistent mindset, and really looking at how do we provide that professional, excellent service that our community members deserve and need. So because we intentionally look at all those impacts, we then started looking at what do we need to propose for a budget for 2027. And again, we've streamlined and really strategically worked at making our budget as lean as possible, looking at how we best invest our dollars so that we appropriately allocate to the right funding line items. And we feel like we've been incredibly fiscally responsible. We've really streamlined our staffing in how we provide service. All of our staff can interchange between one program to another. So if we're running short and we have a team feeling incredibly overwhelmed, we have other staff that can just step in and help out with that. So we really have been very fiscally responsible with our team. I think the two biggest notable edits that you'll see in our budget for this year is our hospital line item that we've increased by $100,000. We had $100,000 in that line item last year. With the unknowns that we may encounter with Medicaid eligibility, we're looking at, we really don't know. This is truly a dart and a dartboard. So we're hopeful that by maintaining our good, solid, sound system of working with and through those applications, with the state's attorney's office, we've got the ability to really hopefully streamline those services as well and keep right on target. And then the other edit that we made was in our safe home budget. I've actually increased the variable hour staffing costs. Rather than hiring a position, we felt that if we could have a little bit more variation and the ability to call in and call our variable hour staff to come in and help with coverage, it would allow us to have an extra body that sometimes we need to have on staff if the day is a little bit crazy. If we've got a lot of outside appointments where the case managers are gone, to be able to maintain safety in that building, it really does mean that we need to have at least 2 bodies in that building. We've got 33 people who create some really challenging, interesting days. And so the need for us to be mindful that we need to be fully staffed and aware of what's happening in the building is it's just critical to operations. So what we did is we increased that by a little over $17,000, which allows us to have variable hour staff come in for up to 15 hours a week to help us cover on those difficult days. So with that, with being fiscally responsible, being able to streamline those budgets, we've decided that we can now take our time and really have strategic focus areas. Our budget, other than that, isn't going to change much. We're coming in pretty flat. And so by looking at these strategic focus areas, it allows us to really best support our staff. It allows for growth and allows us to really challenge ourselves as well. So when we look at the workforce development piece, that's where we will continue to do the positive team-focused community networking. We really do support a lot of our partners, not only through our partnerships, but then also through things like Heart of Service. We also want to embrace the tools and the systems to reduce inefficiencies. So I'm sure that anyone that knows me, when they hear me say this, they will laugh. We are attending an AI summit. I am the least digital person on this planet. And so we decided that in order for us to really be able to embrace change, we needed to challenge ourselves too. Lori and I both have said that that's really not at the top 10 for us. But we also know that in order for us to be able to carry our department forward, we need to be proactive, not reactive, and look at maybe some forward thinking like we haven't before. Then we look at integrated data-informed service delivery. I think you've heard that from a few of the departments in the different programs today. Data is key. And I think that sometimes we lack in that area. And so our real focus now is to develop collaborative service models that can support key performance indicators and metrics so that we can come upon some unified reporting. So just as Commissioner Karski talked about, it's nice to be able to give you the why. When we look at investing dollars, we can give you that why through numbers. Numbers are critical, but it also becomes really important to have the feedback from the very people that we provide service to. And then we also want to connect with our community through community education, being able to engage in that cohesion of opportunities. Efficiency for us is key. And I think for us, it's really calling our partners to the table to be able to identify what are those key efficiencies. We can't afford duplicative services because they're just too expensive. So how do we best work together to make sure that we're not only creating efficiency, but sustainability? And then also the universal language and the unified approach. We want to be able to have clarity among our stakeholders, shared terminology and goals. We want to be able to build trust with our partners. And when we say partners, it's not only to our provider partners, but it's also to the very people that we serve that we need to gain their trust as well. And then being able to align messaging so that we have a better way to connect with our community, keep things focused, and be able to respond appropriately so that people can see what's available to them for services. So bottom line for us, this is 2027 is going to be our call to action with all of our partners. We know that together we can create sustainable and integrated systems that genuinely serve and support our communities the best that we can. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you for questions.
Thank you, Carrie. Public comment on this agenda item. Commission. Comments, questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll just make one comment for context on our hospital line item.
Yeah.
I think just a couple years ago, that was much higher, and we're seeing with Medicaid expansion, we brought that down. Was that at 400,000 or maybe 500,000 in years past?
Mm-hmm.
So we got it all the way down to 100,000, but you're recommending going to 200,000. That's just the potential for maybe a step backwards on the Medicaid expansion journey of how many people are covered with that. So just trying to calibrate that in to the right amount. But I just wanted to give the context that that's not an increase, a new increase. If anything, over a 5-year average, we're still lower than what we were 5 years ago. Is that a fair statement?
That's a very fair statement.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Blakenberg?
I don't want to stand between us and a 5-minute break, but I just want to take a minute to say thank you to Carrie and Lori and Joy and all the staff and the work that you guys all do. And your report or your update hit all of the high points that I think are very worthy of a brag. But I just wanted to mention that I love the philosophy of how we really work to connect the needs in the community with partners as much as we can, and also for the collaborative work that you guys do with other departments in the county to help with the justice impacted folks and the various needs that we have. I think you guys do a great job. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. I think we're done. Thank you, Carrie.
you.
Appreciate the presentation. See former Commissioner Barth out in the hallway. One of the things that got him excited when he was on the commission was recess, and I'm going to declare a 5-minute recess. So you can go say hi to Commissioner Barth. Okay, we're going to make recess over and call us back into order. We have a first reading and authorize the auditor to publish hearing notice for ordinance amendment 2610. Scott Anderson.
Thank you. A quick item. The city of Sioux Falls has been working on updating their comprehensive plan. They're in the process of adopting their 2050 Shape Sioux Falls plan. This is an item that needs to be addressed in our joint zoning ordinance, refers to the date of adoption of that ordinance. So I'm requesting that you authorize the auditor to publish a hearing notice for May 26th. You will meet jointly with the city of Sioux Falls. City staff will give you a briefing or a update, an explanation of their 2050 plan, and at which time I'm sure they will seek your adoption of their plan as well. And then we would amend that would amend our ordinance to include the new date of their 2050 plan. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. It's a simple routine item.
All right, so this is a first reading to set the the date of hearing for May 26th, correct? Okay. Public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion to set the date of hearing for May 26th at the 5 p.m. joint meeting with the city council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider a motion to approve the Justice Text Contract Renewal. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning. This is a request to renew our Justice Text, which is a digital software that we use to review discovery. It runs from May 1st to April 30th, 2027. Last year was the first year that we used it. We really enjoy having it. It allows us to go through our discovery, search terms. It also allows us to prepare transcripts. This is just a request to renew it. It is funds that we did include in our budget request for last year, so we're just asking as a routine business item as to renew this contract.
All right, any public comment on this agenda item? Commission.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Consider a motion to authorize the state's attorney's office to apply for the South Dakota Department of Public Safety Victim Service Grant. Mr. Hager.
Daniel Hager, Minnehaha County State's Attorney. Appreciate an opportunity to, I think, bring more good news to this commission. Asking for approval to apply for a Stop P grant from Department of Public Safety with the state. This is a grant that we have successfully obtained the past 3 years, so this will be the fourth time that I'm asking you to approve this, hopefully getting that approval. It's been a successful grant. We've gotten $59,000, $58,000, $64,000. We're asking for $69,000 this year. There is a 25% match that's remained consistent throughout this grant, but it'll help fund victim witness assistant in my office. Cammie Pfeiffer remains in that position, so it's a great thing for us. Every year she gets better at her job and is doing really good work. In this past year, she served approximately 350 victims, did that very well. One of the cases that got a lot of press in the media, she was the victim witness assistant, got a substantial penitentiary sentence from a horrific case. But she had really come alongside that victim. And this is very common, they're really concerned when they come into contact with law enforcement and the state's attorney's office in those early stages. She was able to just provide services and make sure that victim was able to cooperate and continue through that case, and we got a really good, just result. She's been working with the Minnehaha County groups and agencies across the city as well, monthly meetings on those. Is just doing really good work, so I'd ask for approval to reapply for that grant and hopefully continue that work in the office.
All right, any public comment on this agenda item? All right, Commission.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion is second. Call the roll, please.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to approve a joint agreement for combined election between the City of Colton and Minnehaha County. This is our first of three of these. Good morning, Leah.
Good morning. Leah Anderson, Minnehaha County Auditor. So I will read through my first briefing memo, but they are all very much alike. So pursuant to South Dakota Codified Law 9/1337, a governing body of a municipality shall in even-numbered years hold the general municipal election in conjunction with the June primary or the November general election. The City of Colton has requested to hold its general election in conjunction with our November election, and the City of Colton would like to combine their election. So I'm asking for approval of their agreement. Keep in mind, even in the ones that we did for June elections previously, that if they do not have candidates or enough to go on the ballot, then this doesn't really apply. So it's just in advance setting up this agreement. So the first one is for City of Colton.
All right, public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second by Heisey. Please call the roll.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to approve a joint agreement for a combined election between the City of Crooks and Minnehaha County.
Okay, Leah Anderson again, Minnehaha County Auditor. So City of Crooks, and this isn't a misprint, we have two of them. So this first one is for a special election that they are having with our June election. This agreement, we started working on this, and then I was working with Eric on these, and he was on vacation, so we got a little delayed. But their special election is combined with their June election, and so this is an agreement to support that.
Public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. This is a little bit off topic, but since you're joining us this morning, Leah, I thought I might as well ask, and I'm sure the public would like to know about how many ballot styles do we have in Minnehaha County? And then secondly, I wanted to ask, when are we receiving absentee ballots, and when is that going to start, roughly?
Yeah, so I brought some notes. I was alerted that you may have questions about that. So ballot styles, we have a total of 324 for our county. That has nothing to do with the delay in getting our ballots. I do not have any update. I just looked at ES&S's website before I came up. So I do not have an update as when we will receive them, but the order is in and it's at the printer. And all I'm told by ES&S is that they need to allow 5 business days from the date of our order when it went to the printer, which was the 16th of April. So, and again, that delay is the same across the whole state. It's not just us.
And I did hear some conversations across the state. Auditors are going to be receiving their ballots at different times of the week. Are the auditors collectively going to hold early voting starting on one particular date, or just start voting once they get the ballots in? So that means that, say, Lincoln County can start early voting tomorrow and Minnehaha could start Friday. Is it just dependent on when they receive those ballots?
Yes, so it does depend on when we receive the ballots. I worked with our state's attorney's office in looking at that law, so I brought that up here with me at South Dakota Codified Law 1219.3. And once we receive those ballots, we need to have our absentee ballots mailed out and our absentee voting or in-person voting conducted within 48 hours. I would expect we will be less than 48 hours, but we are not going to wait for other counties That question that was presented by one of the auditors was, it was suggested that we not follow that idea to all start at the same time because it would not be in compliance with law.
And just to clarify, the UOCAVA ballots have already been emailed out.
Yes, those were emailed out the very first day of absentee voting on the 17th, so we are in compliance with that. And then all requests that come in after that for UOCAVA ballots would continue to go out as they come in.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
All right. We have a motion? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the joint agreement for the combined election between the City of Crooks and Minnehaha County.
Motion second, call the roll.
Weinberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to approve a joint agreement for combined election between the City of Crooks and Minnehaha County for the general election.
Yes, so this last agreement is to approve the agreement, and this would be also in November. This would be City of Crooks's general election, not special, and they would like to combine with us for the November election.
Okay, public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second, call the roll, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Weinberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to authorize the Highway Department to purchase up to $120,000 of metal culverts off Beetle County, South Dakota's county's metal culvert bid. Jacob.
Morning, Commission. Jacob Mars, Highway Department. Every year in the state, Beetle County bids out steel culverts. Generally, it gets awarded to True North Steel, which is located in Huron. And then the counties generally purchase off Beetle County's bid. So our request is to purchase off that bid. We dedicate $50,000 towards assisting townships for culverts over 16 square feet in size. So looking for authorization.
Public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
Make a motion to approve the metal culvert bidding process.
Second, with a question, if I may.
Please.
Jacob, can you explain, is this a requirement that we do this, or is this just a way that we assist our townships?
Yeah, so South Dakota codified law requires us to assist or come to an agreement to assist townships for culverts over 16 square feet in size. Our option is to purchase metal culverts or concrete culverts, depending on what the request from the township is. Generally, the townships request metal culverts, so that's what we try to make available to them.
Thank you.
And, one additional question. Morning, Jacob. Are these culverts, do they have a place to go? Are they going to be installed right away? Or are we holding them until requests come in down the road?
Yep, good question. So we have a permit on our website that townships apply for. We go out and we survey the sites. We come up with a hydraulic design for each culvert, and then we prioritize them based on need and then order of application. So we currently have 2 applications in right now.
And do we provide those culverts free of cost, or does the township reimburse us or whole or in part for those culverts?
Yeah, so we provide up to $50,000 in culverts per year to the townships. We provide the culverts and then they provide the installation. So it comes out to about a 50-50 split for cost between the county and the township.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, call the roll.
Benega.
Aye.
Weinberg.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to authorize the Highway Department to purchase a 2026 Bandit Intimidator 15 XP wood chipper under the Sourcewell procurement contract in the amount of $79,837.50, and authorize the chair to sign the purchase agreement.
Morning, Commission. Jacob Mars, Highway Department again. In our budget for last year for 2026, this was approved to replace our wood chipper. Our current model is just worn out. It's getting to be where it comes in the shop just about as much as it's used, so it's time to send it down the road. We looked at both this and a Vermeer wood chipper. This one's about $10,000 cheaper than the Vermeer is, and the city of Sioux Falls currently uses this very similar model as well.
All right, public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Call the roll.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Authorize a commission administrative officer to sign the participation and release form for new national opioid settlement. 6 remnant defendants. Morning, Susan.
Morning, Susan Beeman with the Auditor's Office. We recently became aware of a new national opioid settlement that we have to opt in to participate. The settlement is referred to as the 6 remnant defendant settlement. So we're eligible to participate, but we do have to opt in. I do not know the dollar amount that we would be receiving because it is contingent, obviously, on the number of people that participate, nor can I tell you when we will actually see the funds coming in. So when we do receive dollars, those would be received and deposited into our opioid settlement fund. Currently, those dollars are used to help fund our part of our contribution to the link. So therefore, we're asking your consideration to authorize Tom Greco to sign that participation form, and then that would start the process for our involvement to eventually receive funds.
All right, public comment on this agenda item. Commission.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Call the roll.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to authorize the purchase of furniture for the Juvenile Justice Center through Canfield Business Interiors. Meredith.
Good morning, Commissioners. Meredith Jarko with the Commission Office. So today before you is the furniture order for Phase 2 of the Juvenile Justice Center project. The total cost is $486,964.45, and this will be paid using our budgeted JJC bond funds. So similar to Phase 1, this furniture will be purchased through Canfield. The furniture will occupy 27 separate spaces within the Phase 2 facility, which includes offices, conference rooms, lobby areas, the courtroom, family visitation, those spaces. So the cost of the furniture, including freight, is just a little over $431,000, and then furniture installation is $52,720, and the design is $3,000 respectively. So, happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, public comment on this agenda item.
Gary Meyer. I paid a visit to the County Equalization Office last week. I wanted to learn how my property tax were calculated. It is a very complex, tedious process. I came out with a much better understanding of the process. I had no issues with the way my taxes were arrived at. Those folks are just doing their job. They have a tough job trying to squeeze every last nickel out of the taxpayer to pay for this body's excessive spending. I looked through Canfield's invoice. $500,000 for office furniture? And some of those furnitures that were on that list, 8-foot conference tables at $8,000 a piece for a table. 4 of them, $32,000. You had 40 plastic chairs, $4,800. You had 40 very small 2-foot by 3-foot tables. A table with 4 legs, $8,560. You had 4 Mystic vinyl sofa lounges, $5,500, $1,300 a piece. You had 2 13-foot benches with arms and a back, $10,000 a piece. $10,000 for a vinyl covered couch. You had 2 16 bench with arms and back, $13,000 apiece, for a total of $26,000. You had a 22-inch round side table, that's just a little end table, $831. 4 guest chairs at $1,200 apiece, and a cardigan pillow for $112. That was with a 55% discount. There were many, many more items on their invoice that the description was so cryptic that I couldn't even figure out what they were. And receiving and delivery, $52,000. $52,000 to deliver this stuff? And there were 2 surcharges equaling $600. It brings back memories of the government spending $500 on toilet seats and hammers. So you add this to the taxpayers, $1.6 million to put up a shell building that currently has no purpose, 14% raises for our county commissioners, extra holidays for all county employees. Your commission officers seem to have an open checkbook, and you 5 commissioners simply rubber stamp approved without questioning anything they slide in. It's no wonder you have to implement taxed opt-outs, because the county commissioners can't seem to cut costs.
Any additional public comment on this agenda item? All right. Commission, I'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Chair, Meredith, can you give us a sense of context of how this fits into the pre-existing budget plan for JJC? We obviously had some amount penciled in for furniture.
Yep, yeah, so in the bond, we do have a specific portion that is just for FF&E, so that includes furniture. There's also a security line in there to include any equipment that is security related. So that budget, this falls under that budget. We are well within that budget. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but that's $750,000 for total FF&E for the entire building, phase 1 and phase 2. So we are still well within that budget. And we have been making a very conscious effort throughout this whole process to make sure that we are staying within that FF&E budget as well as within the total bond budget for the project.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional comments?
Mr. Chair, I did comment that I share some of these sentiments expressed. I spoke about this last time we appropriated and approved money for furniture from Canfield. And since then, I did look into it. And when I was able to find out, given the size of our institution and the jail, it is what the furniture quoted is more or less what commercial grade furniture of this proportion costs institutions like ours, the county, I mean. But personally, I'd like to, down the road, explore less costly options for furniture if they do in fact exist. And I know in the case of Canfield and this quote, it was a competitive bid at the end of the day. But like I said, I'd like to see a little bit less expensive tables and chairs. But for the time being, I'll be voting in favor of this.
So, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Heisey.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Consider a motion to approve the release and use of confidential, I'll start over. Consider a motion to approve the release and use of confidential information agreement regarding motor vehicle records. Mr. Wattenbach. Good morning, Monty.
Morning, Commissioners. Monty Wattenbach with Minnehaha County IT. For longer than I have been here, the county has received a motor vehicle file from the state of South Dakota with monthly refreshes. That data is used by law enforcement to do license plate lookups. While they can get that information in some of the other applications, they prefer the application that we have because they can do partial plate searches and those types of things. And the reason for the agreement is the state went here a while back to a new system, and so we haven't been getting that file for a little while. And that kind of spurred them to create this agreement. It was a very robust agreement that Eric and his team helped me go through. I'll leave it at that. So I recommend that we assign that agreement to allow us to continue to get that file.
All right, public comment on this agenda item. Commissioners, questions, action?
I'd move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approve, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're now at the opportunity for public comment. We allow up to 30 minutes, 5 minutes per individual on any non-agenda item.
Thank you.
Good morning, Cindy Meyer, Minnehaha County. I'm going to ask, did any of you ask the auditor which VVSG, Voluntary Voting System Guidelines, that your machines are certified to? It is 6.1.1.0, which it says on the EAC certificate, the Election Assistant Commission certificate, that this version is in conformance with the VVSG 1.0, which is the 2005 standards. So if you look at the first handout that you got, it says right at the top, it's 2005 standards. It says it right in the circle, it's the 2005 standards. So the Board of Elections, under the leadership of the Secretary of State, is saying the 6.5.0.0 version is certified to the 2015 standards. But according to the EAC, the Election Assistance Commission, that would be incorrect. If you look at the second document in your packet, again, it says in the circle at the top, it's the 2005 standards. So in 2021, the Secretary of State and the Board of Elections adopted the changes that these machines were in compliance with the 2015 standards. However, it states right on the certificate that is false. The bottom line, these machines are out of compliance, and they have been since 2021. All the elections processed using this equipment have been processed on equipment out of compliance, which makes them uncertifiable and illegal. Again, these machines have been purchased with HAVA money, Help America Vote Act money, which is federal money. When you agree to the use of federal money, you agree to comply by the rules, and those rules are made by the EAC. The EAC was formed to make voluntary voting system guidelines. These guidelines are voluntary, but when you have the use of HAVA money, you agree to follow the guidelines. And those guidelines require the use of certified equipment. South Dakota adopted those EAC guidelines into law, so they are no longer voluntary, but they are now the law. So if you're using federal money, you promise to use that money to purchase and use certified equipment. So the South Dakota Codified Law 1217B-2 simply states, no system may be approved unless the system fulfills the requirements as established by the State Board of Elections. The administrative rule, which has the same weight as a statute, the rule 5020902 specifically states the modifications for the already approved system must have been certified as fulfilling the requirement of the EAC voting system 2015 standards by an independent authority accredited by the EAC or has been certified to meet the national standards by another state. It hasn't happened. Again, look at the certificates. They are approved to the 2005 standards. So Christine Learkamp from the Secretary of State's office forwarded incorrect information to the South Dakota Association of County Commissioners, and then Chris Jacobson forwarded that incorrect information to all of you as county commissioners. So these documents don't lie. Look them up for yourself. It is included right on the document what I'm telling you. These machines are uncertified, which means they are illegal. These machines have been illegal since at least 2021, and look at the elections that have been processed and your signatures on the certificates saying the elections were correct. There is no ES&S tabulators that are in conformance with EAC standards. We know it and you know it because I keep telling you about it. And so my question is, what are you going to do about it? Just carry on as business as normal? The only legal way is to hand count the election. You were all supposedly elected, but they were using illegal equipment. I guess if you are the ones, I question if you are even the ones that people really elected. So we are following the law. It was just stated. We're following the law regarding the starting of absentee voting after the receipt of the ballots. Why don't we follow the law with the use of the ES&S machines?
Gary Meyer. A friend of mine sent this to me, and I'd like to share it. The right of voting is a primary right. It is the sole, let me start over. The right of voting is a primary right, the sole grantor of all other liberties. For this right to be real, it must be substantive, not merely symbolic. If the act of voting is separated from the ability to verify the result, the right itself becomes an illusion. A system that allows a citizen to cast a ballot, but bars them from witnessing the count, is not a republic. It is a black box theater of consent. Slavery consists in being subject to the will of another. When a citizen is forced to move from knowing their vote was counted to merely trusting that it was, they have been transitioned from a sovereign participant to a subject of administrative grace. The Secretary of State's office has turned election administration into a form of administrative priestcraft, where the veil of technology and complexity is used to hide the holy of holies, the count itself, from the eyes of the uninitiated. This veil is not a tool of order, it is a tool of exclusion. By claiming that the average citizen is not qualified to see or verify the count, the state effectively places a thick structural barrier between the people and the truth of their own sovereignty. There is no equality of right in an elective franchise where a centralized office claims the exclusive authority to choose who counts the ballots. If one office controls the gatekeepers of the tally, the primary right is no longer held by the people, it is held by the administration. This creates a fundamental inequality. The official becomes the master of the process, while the voter becomes a beggar of transparency. In a system built on common sense, the simplest solution is always the most secure. The simpler the thing is, the less liable it is to be disordered. If the ultimate requirement of a free people is to verify the count for the system to have legitimacy, then the presence of expensive, complex intermediaries is a violation of reason. These machines act as a secondary veil. If the people must verify the count anyway, to ensure the social contract is intact, the machine serves no purpose other than to introduce friction against transparency and unnecessarily expense to the taxpayer. You can exclude a man from the right of voting, but you cannot exclude him from the right of rebelling against that exclusion. Exclusion from verification is, in every moral and practical sense, exclusion from voting. When the veil of administrative secrecy is drawn over the ballot box, the social contract is breached. At that moment, the citizen's duty is to obey the law. The citizen's duty to obey the law is replaced by their natural right to challenge the illegitimacy of the system. The conclusion? A vote that cannot be verified by the citizen is a vote that has not truly been cast. It has merely been surrendered. To reclaim the primary right, we must tear the veil of administrative priestcraft and return the count to the hands of the people, where it can be seen, felt, and verified in the light of day.
Any additional public comment?
Good morning. And I could say good morning because we got like 2 or 3 minutes left. My name is Kurt Diedrich. I've lived here since January of 2024 in Minnehaha County and thoroughly enjoyed it. My wife and I moved here when she took the position of director of the Housing Authority. And I am also the Democrat candidate for county auditor coming up next fall. So assuming I vote for myself on the June 2nd primary, I should be on the ballot. I just want to thank you for your work. I have served over 20 years in various levels in government, small village trustee, township assessor, or county assessor, and I greatly appreciate all your time and effort. And hopefully I'm looking forward to working with you come next March. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? All right, move on to commission liaison reports. Commissioner Benega?
I'll just make it short. Yesterday, Commissioner Karski and I were on the Metro Management Board, and for the first time as long as I can remember, and that's not real long, but we have full employment at Metro Management, which is a huge goal. And frankly, I just want to tell people that, and I'm pretty sure Commissioner Karski agrees with this, we are so happy with the management of the group and the people who have worked hard to make that happen. And we're excited about having that completed, to be honest. We also have 3 new staff people who are going into training, which gives us some backup help. So it's been a great process to be part of. And again, we appreciate the administrative support for that. And I'll let Joe talk about a meeting we had this morning with the public advocate, and part of that conversation about increasing the communications with other department heads and doing the whole process of electronically supporting the department rather than doing the manual process.
Mr. Chair, I guess I can speak to for the public advocates this morning. Also in coordination with Public Defender's Office, looking at new case management software, just the complexity of exchanging discovery information, big file sizes between the state's attorney's office and the public defenders, public advocates. There's just a lot to manage there. A lot of that has been some of the time management that the attorneys have to keep track of how much time they spend on each case has been fairly manual. So embedding some of those tools into the software. So we're still doing some due diligence across a couple potential vendors, but we've got one of those vendors visiting in the near future, so we can dial in on that. So I think we'll have more to report as we go into budget season. I think you'll see next week in both Tracy and Julie's report some placeholder dollar amounts for software in 2027, but more to come on that.
All right. I'm going to tag on to Commissioner Benega's report. The average answer time for a call to our 911 system is 4 seconds. There are communities in this country that you'll be put on hold for 10, 15 minutes. When you talk about value for taxpayer dollar, I think that's, the average citizen, their interaction with government is limited, but boy, when they call 911, it better be quick, and ours is. We got good people. So thanks to them. My addition to my report, tomorrow I'll be on the Link board meeting as the vice chair of the Link. One of the things we're going to be looking at is an RFP for operations of the triage center, basically taking the mayor, the county commission and the presidents of the health plan out and putting more operational people in and hiring an operations contract or having a contract with somebody for operations of the link. So going to be some changes coming in. I think it's the right time. The last 4 or 5 years, we did what we did, and it was, getting it off the ground. I think the link is in a good place. We are going to be looking at some operational changes, just in management and that type of thing, but not in what the link does itself. The other meeting I have is a meeting with the Chamber Board of Directors as an ex officio, Lincoln, Minnehaha School District, et cetera. Officials are invited to that, so we get to sit on that. So I'll have several meetings tomorrow. Additional liaison reports?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I wanted to mention that last Thursday, the State Historical Society announced in a press release that our very own Bill Hoskins will be among a small handful of individuals and organizations who are going to be recognized on June 3rd at the annual State History Conference in Pierre. Specifically, Bill's being honored with the prestigious Robinson Award for his lifetime contributions to preserving South Dakota history. Great honor for Bill, so make sure to congratulate him if you see him. On that note, I should probably mention that the Museum Appreciation Dinner is this evening. I'll be attending that. Also wanted to mention I was in communication with the Brandon Fire Chief at a Split Rock, dealing with some contracts with their local township, and they've seen a lot of increased costs and service calls over the last year or two. And during budget season, it'd be appropriate, I think, to have some more discussions about their budgets and their ongoing funding. Wanted to mention as well that I'll be getting a tour of the Crossin Boys Ranch this Thursday around lunchtime. So first time seeing that facility and the work that they do.
Commissioner Bleinberg.
Briefly, we, in the last couple of weeks, have met, the highway hosted the Townsend Townships meeting. I participated in a mentoring meeting with some area stakeholders looking at what we can do with justice impacted folks reentering the community. At the most recent JDC monthly meeting, Commissioner Benninga and I heard that several legislators who are interested in juvenile justice have spent time meeting with Jamie Gravitt and Nate, touring the facility and learning more about the work that we're doing. We wrapped up Board of Equalization last week. We also had the city, county, school elected officials meeting, learned more about the community learning centers and the work that is being done with our youth after school hours. And then the Safety and Justice Challenge meeting is tomorrow at noon. That's it for me.
All right, thank you. Any non-action commission discussion?
Mr. Chair, just wanted to comment in regard to some of the public comment that was made in respect to the election certifications. I will be speaking to our county auditor and getting some clarification about this issue, if it is one.
Any other discussion? We have executive session. Yep, it'll be a quick executive session required statutorily. So I'm going to look for a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of South Dakota Codified Law 125, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.